the Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole Studio in Bob Cajun. I'm one of your hosts, Terry, and Jim and I got all partied out celebrating SpaceX, so he's not in the hot seat. We ran out of steam to record some podcasts, so this is with Jim in absentia, soon to be with me in the Hobbit Hole Studio this week, so stay tuned. In the meantime, some things that are rattling around in my noggin. Number one, I've been watching with interest and maybe a little popcorn, and maybe that popcorn ended up being spilled on the floor and vacuum had to come out to solve the problems. Watching the U.S. process of vetting Senate approval of Trump's picks for administration, and a mixture of incredulity, laughter, guffawing, and I can't believe they said that, followed the ones that I followed on the TV, and I didn't follow them all. So far, Pam Bondi, who refused to directly answer, did Trump lose 2020? Who is the President of the United States? Was the election free and fair, or are you going to carry that sulky Trump whiny stuff through the next term as well? Pam Bondi is eligible to be appointed as the AG, and I've had reservations about her since her days as AG in Florida. In Florida during some controversial times like Trump University going belly up. Who oversaw that? Pam Bondi. Who oversaw the lawsuit by disgruntled students who want their money back? Pam Bondi. Who took a $25,000 check from Trump to make good with all of this lawsuit stuff and throw it out of the courts? Pam Bondi. Great pick for AG, especially when her lips are so firmly implanted on Trump's posterior. I think her goal really is to just be one of Trump's lawyers. Well, funny, an AG isn't supposed to be the president's personal lawyer. He's got a team of advisors for that. Pam Bondi, you're not one of them, but I think she wants to be in the position of AG. It would complete the cycle of corruption if Trump got Bondi in as both personal lawyer for the president and Trump's business lawyer, and she controls the law for the whole country. So a bit of corruption and graft in that one. Yeah, made me spill my coffee and my popcorn more than once. The other one was Pete Hegseth. Wow. Talk about... Somebody made a poster. I saw it on Twitter. Yeah, I still visit Twitter. I also saw the same thing on Blue Sky, which is where I participate more. It had the picture of Pete Hegseth, and the caption was, or the poster at the top, big bold print, a DUI appointment. Parody of the DEI claims that the conservatives and Republicans have been throwing around. The woke, anti-woke stuff. Yeah, it's a DEI. Yeah, it's a DUI in Hegseth's case. So is he qualified? Not on the least. Will he be appointed? Well, I got a feeling most of these Republicans will be appointed anyway, confirmed in the rules. Trump appointments. Is it for the good of the country? Absolutely not. Does it make Trump happy to have loyalists kissing his rear end? Yes, it does. So that makes the world go round. Those are the ones that really got me. There will be others, of course, but that kind of got me. And other things that I've been watching, well, this week has been a real anti-Trump week in Canada. And I'm thinking of Trudeau, who was on a number of American networks talking about Canada and the tariffs, and of course arguing that Canada is not going to be served, neither will America be served, by 25% tariffs, which is what Trump has promised from day one. Instead, Trudeau has been, now that he's resigned, he's actually liberated to be the real spokesperson for Canada, not holding back his punches, using a boxing metaphor, because of course Trudeau trained as a boxer at some point, became interested in the sport. Well, he pulled no punches, and he talked about Canada. Absolutely not. No way. We define ourselves as being primarily, number one, anti-American. We are not not anti-American. We are not American. The negative being, we're not like them. Now, you can get into the niceties of the whole debate and say to what extent we are. We consume American media, we consume American news, we consume American TV, movies, theater, So to what extent are we a product of our own? What we consume in terms of culture makes us the same, not different. But Trudeau comes out and says we define ourselves by being not American. Good start on the TV circuit in the United States when he was visiting for President Carter's funeral, and he mentioned that Carter came to his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau's funeral, and so there's a connection between them. But then he went on to talk about other things, and one of the things that's coming up is an interesting one because it sets Canada apart again. Trudeau has called a cabinet meeting, emergency cabinet meeting, scheduled for the day of the inauguration in the States. And to add insult to injury, this cabinet is designed to define protection measures to defend Canadian interests, strengthen Canada's relationship with the U.S., and make unequivocally clear to any of Trump and his minions that mutually beneficial trade and security relationships is what we need, not vitriol and slogans and attacks and tariffs. In fact, it was Reagan, was it not, who signed the first free trade deal with Brian Mulroney. Free trade. That was supposed to be the GOP conservative hallmark. Free trade, unencumbered by government interference. Free from taxes. Free from tariffs. In fact, tariffs are the opposite of free trade. So here we go. Trudeau making another point, I guess you would say, to Trump, who doesn't read and uses a Sharpie to sign his signature on things that he wants done. I think there's more fire and brimstone from Trudeau now that he's resigned. He's unfettered, unchained, and he's letting Trump have it in American media, from CNN to, I think it was ABC, and perhaps one other American news outlet aired a lot of the interviews with Trudeau. So he's been making his presence felt in the United States, letting them know in uncertain terms free trade isn't based on tariffs, and respect is earned, not demanded and threatened. So we got a lot of good stuff happening. There are some other things going on, and I follow this program, Laura Babcock, in a program called The O Show, in which she has gone on and talked about Carney. And Carney is, of course, the latest one to throw his hat in the Liberal leadership ring. And the show is kind of interesting. I'll put a link in the description. And the panel is kind of interesting, too. The O Show, I think, is based in Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken. And it's kind of interesting because Laura Babcock seems to know what she's talking about here, and she's definitely not in favor of the Ford policies in Ontario. Neither am I, but I do accept the leadership that Ford has demonstrated of late in the impending trade duel between Canada and the United States over tariffs. Ford does seem to be taking the Team Canada jersey with him wherever he goes, and in fact, he's got to be careful with that. He is wondering out loud to what extent Danielle Smith and Alberta are actually loyal to Canada as a whole, or are they just another form of separatism, the Wexit kind of view of life? We know more, we have more, we've contributed more, woe is us, we're the victims of everything, why is the federal government always picking on me? We want our own CPP, we want to, whatever, add on to it. The discussion goes on and on. Anyway, lots of interesting stuff happening in that show. Interesting for me is to watch some of the shows that I listen to and watch YouTube comments on, seeming to, have the presence of trolls, right-wing trolls suddenly surging out of the woodwork. It's like the ship is sinking and the rats know that something's going down, so they're all over the place. But to see interactive comments real time by people who are definitely not for Canada and or for unity and or for federalism and or for positivity, you can tell by the language. Anytime you see the word libtard in a comment, you know what they're speaking of. That's a derogatory term used by the far right. The crazies are in town when those words start going. And the hostility and negativity in comments, it's pretty bad. Why I left Twitter. The comments were unfiltered, and it became a place of disparaging, discouragement, and naysaying, and ne'er-do-wellness, people saying all kinds of things, and my point is always without evidence. So show me the policies, show me the measurable outcomes of something, and I will, defer. I will say, good, show me the data, and let's talk about things. So we can talk about things in terms of another file that went on. And I looked for this because I read the book by Mark Carney called Values. And there are a number of pithy quotes, P-I-T-H-Y. Pithy, as in succinct and full of wisdom. And I'll choose this one as a thing for Mark Carney. If we value the present much more than the future, we're less likely to make the necessary investments today to reduce the risks tomorrow. Again, that's the short-sightedness, and an economist saying we need to invest in the future. The future is not necessarily coal, good clean coal, as Trump would say, or oil and gas, as Alberta would say. In fact, Alberta, as I think Danielle Smith, has got more money from the oil and gas industry as sponsors than any other source of income for her party. They're buying her off, and that seems to be a problem. Yeah, lots of good stuff in Carney. I'm looking forward to the Liberal debates. More to talk about as we explore the Jim and Terry Show. Two guys with retired time on our hands and a coffee and a whole lot of stuff to say. Who's listening? I don't know, but then I don't care. The value of being retired. Jim and Terry signing off. Bye-bye for now.